What do cows like to watch the most? Movies. What is humor? Humor, by Google, is defined as the quality of being amusing or comic, especially as expressed in literature or speech. Now, what if I told you that there is quite a peculiar overlap between humor and one of the most common mental illnesses, depression? Depression is a common and serious medical illness, as defined by the American Psychiatric Association, that negatively affects how you act, the way you feel, and the way you think. Fortunately, depression is treatable. However, it does affect your daily work life and the way you think about things. If a certain video is not hilarious, it still manages to entertain you. For a few minutes there, your entire focus is on that particular video itself. It's almost as if it serves as a temporary distraction. Now, our body releases these hormones called the feel-good hormones when you laugh. These feel-good hormones, the scientific name of it, is endorphins. And endorphins are peptides that interact with opioid receptors in the brain to positively affect how you feel. So it helps relieve pain and trigger feelings of pleasure. Now, think of it this way. If these hormones, endorphins, would constantly be releasing, you would be too distracted and happy to think about all of the stressful tasks that you have lined up for yourself. However, coping with mental illnesses can be through laughter. It can be both terrific and terrible for your health. But why is humor so significant out of all of the emotions you could possibly feel? It is because humor is such a major part of our daily lives that we don't even realize it. According to a study I found online while researching, humor is a multidimensional phenomenon linked to emotions, cognitions, and behavior. Humor has had positive effects on physiological states like respiratory functioning. And the whole point of this is the fact that even a study that's conducted on laughter proves that it has positive effects on the body. Humor can relieve stress and enhance mood, as can physical exercise as well. For example, people who watch various humorous films reported higher state anxiety equal to or greater to the people that spend time exercising for an equal amount of time. However, everyone is of a different intellect. That means that what might be humorous to you may not be humorous to another, and may not actually make any sense at all. So, what does it take to get the joke? 1, you need to be able to mentally represent the setup of the joke. So this is you trying to visualize it somehow. Detect an incongruity in its multiple interpretation. For example, when a pun is made, you think of the different ways it could be interpreted. And 3, resolve the incongruity by inhibiting the literal, non-funny interpretations and appreciating the meaning of the funny one. And this links to how something that a humorous joke found by someone may not make sense to another at all, because they do not find, they are not looking for the actual funny part of the joke itself. Now that we have a bit more insight into humor and what kind of effect it really has in our lives, I would like to talk about how it actually overlaps with mental illnesses itself. A relationship was proposed by Lazarus and Folkman all the way back in 1984. For example, humor may be able to, humor serves as a temporary timeout to humor may provide as a temporary timeout from having to cope with impending stress. This can be helpful in being able to step back and actually being able to find a better problem-focused solution for your problems itself. So what this does for the individual is that it creates a distance from the actual problem and helps you actually solve the stress-related problem instead of panicking. So finding humor in stressful circumstances can also serve as a buffer for distress. And it can be overall associated with a better positive coping mechanism and a positive appraisal of negative life situations itself. So humor can actually direct you into forming different varied coping mechanisms. On that note, can I have a show of hands as to how many of us actually do use humor as a coping mechanism or a defense mechanism? Exactly. The good news is that researchers have actually identified a positive relationship between humor. People who use humor in communication tend to adapt their communication skills according to the social group that they are spending time with. With such adaptability, humor-oriented individuals are better likely to be able to anticipate stress and deal with tense social situations. So this makes it easier with people who have mental illnesses and are humorous to be able to blend into their social groups. However, this does not help them actually deal with their insecurities because they're using it as a way to deflect with humor. But this does give an open road to them actually being able to feel like they belong in their social circles, which is a problem for many people who suffer from mental illnesses. So research has shown that those with greater sense of humor have been shown to less likely to worry. The use of humor actually indicates a greater likelihood of taking positive risks such as joke telling and other forms of humor production. So if humor can be conceptualized as a mature defense mechanism, as proposed by the American Psychiatric Association, it can actually be used in therapeutic relationships to help people with mental illnesses to better themselves. There is, however, no universal implementation of humor without consideration for individual differences, for humor use can have negative consequences. For example, although those who make use of humor as a coping mechanism score lower on depression and anxiety tests, people who do use humor negatively, whether it affects themselves or others, tend to be at a greater risk for interpersonal difficulties, self-efficacy, and self-esteem issues, and a host of other pathological symptoms. Finally, I'd like to end with a quote by Robin Williams. I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it's like to feel absolutely worthless and they don't want anybody else to feel that. Thank you.